Hi everybody, my name is Eitan and welcome to another After Effects tutorial. Today I will be showing you some basic color correction type stuff. This is just a quick shot I did. This was really actually pretty simple color correction, and I added the whitening too, but I mean this was really just, I kind of threw this in here, and I had another tutorial showing you how to do that. Mainly I'm just going to be covering how sort of some of the curve stuff works and how to really just do some basic color correction. So let's get started. So here we have just our original image. And so first of all, just a tip to anyone doing color correction that you think you're going to be eventually doing something on a reel and you're going to want to be, or a breakdown, and you're going to want to show sort of how you did it. Right click and then do new adjustment layers and create. You'll want 4 of them. So I'm just duplicating this 4 times. And then here we go. I'm just going to bring up curves over here, my go-to color correction. Okay, and then drag it on, and I'm just going to Control C to copy that and paste it on. That one, and that one, and that one, and then you can add additional color correction layers as well of other kinds. But this is for curves. What you're doing is on here, I'm going to do the RGB color correction. This is the overall brightness and stuff like that. Then on here, I'm going to do the reds. On here, the greens, and on here, the blues. And so this way, if I'm doing a breakdown, I can bring on 1 layer at a time, and it's a lot sort of a cleaner look to it. So now, what curves does and how it works, I mean, you've probably seen it used by me or Andrew Kramer of Video Copilot, any of those guys. Color correction is often done by curves. So what you do is basically this line here represents the different values of brightness in your image. Lower parts are sort of the darker parts of the image. Middles are the midtones, and up top the highlights, the really bright parts. And I forgot to mention the bottom parts are called the shadows, which is a pretty easy name for them because, you know, they're dark, like shadows. Anyway, so if you bring that down, it affects mostly the darker parts of the image, but you'll see the whole line curves, which means it is bringing down some of the other brightness. But what you could do is click here, keep everything straight but this part, and say we want to make them really bright. Then we have to, the dark parts, we have to keep everything else completely normal. And this is obviously, you probably wouldn't ever really want to do this. This isn't exactly practical, but just sort of to show you how it works. So I'm going to click this line just to reset it. So what we're going to want to do now is sort of crush the blacks. Just make everything pretty dark and ominous, and already we have that. So right now I'm just darkening the image. If I want to add contrast, what I would do is bring that up too, and that produces a cool result. What that's doing is saying brights are going to be brighter, darks are going to be darker, therefore we have contrast. But I'm going to leave it down a little to keep a little of the detail in some of the sky there. So then next we'll be affecting the reds. And by the way, you can do this on 1 layer. The only reason I'm doing it on separate ones is because it makes it easier to do breakdowns later. But it can be kind of a pain, so it makes sense to just sometimes do it on 1. So now, this is the red channel. We have the bits are red in this, and by dragging it up, more red, dragging it down, less red, highlights, midtones, shadows. So now what we can do is, I really like that the clouds are kind of dark and like that, so I'm going to bring down the reds. But up top, the sky area, it would be kind of cool if that was a brighter red. So I'm going to do that. And you can create really cool, I could do sort of like a, this is, I guess right now, almost like a sunset, but not quite, like a dark sunset, a stormy sunset. I guess I'll keep going with this theme. This is different than the original, but we'll keep going with this. I like it. Next, green. So here we have our green channel. Bring down the greens, bring up the greens. So I think right in this area over here, the clouds, we will probably want to make it green, nice, add to the sunset. And then here those clouds really become a nice purple. And so you don't have to affect every channel. I'm just sort of doing this to show you how it works and some examples of what can be done with it. And then on the top layer, blues, I'm going to overall just increase the blue, except for the very shadows. I'll drop it there. You know what? I like it. A lot of color correction is just seeing what looks cool. So from here, you can just add more layers as you like. And the three other main effects I use when color correcting, I will show you now. So I'll do 3 more adjustment layers just because I'm going to use them. And this will be curves. And then this I'll just name R, this G, and this B, red, green, blue. And then this one, oh wait, did I mess something up? Oh yeah, okay, perfect. Here, I have 3. So next what I'm going to do is add on saturation, hue and saturation. Here we have that. And here we can just bring down the saturation if we want. The less saturation there is, the more black and white it is. More saturation, that's just sort of like the color extremeness, I guess you could call it. So our picture was a little overly saturated. I guess not overly saturated, but I'll bring it down a little bit there. And saturation. Okay. So next what we'll do, and one other way to do the saturation is if we bring up a tint. Here we go. Just drag that on, and I'm just going to turn off hue and saturation for now. So right now, it's mapping the black channel, everything black to black, and everything white to white. So it's just going to be a black and white picture. But amount to tint, this is how much you want that to happen. So this can also control saturation by bringing it down, but it can't bring it up. And that's one of the reasons I generally like to use hue and saturation over that. But they do similar stuff. I mean, the only real difference is you can't bring the saturation up with tint. So that's good. So now what I'm going to do is add on a vignette. And vignettes are always fun. So there are a bunch of ways of doing this. One way I'm going to do is, right now, we can either do this with curves or the brightness thing or exposure. I'll use exposure. Exposure, here we go, and drag that on. And so what we'll do, just bring down the exposure. It can be anything that makes the picture really dark, or even black is fine. Sometimes I use a black solid, but this is probably good. You can still make out a bit of detail, but doesn't really matter, because what we're going to do now is take a mask. I'm going to click here, go down to the ellipse tool, and make a big mask. Then what I'm going to do is press invert on the mask, and then hit F to feather it. This is going to soften the edges. Do that a lot. And then I'm going to click on the mask thing here, and then just bring it down. And then the expansion we can play with, that's how much it expands the mask outside of its original borders. So we can sort of push off the vignette to the side. And what vignettes are good for is just sort of bringing in the audience's eyes, sort of controlling them to look towards the subject. So you can have it like more centered, I guess we could do to one side, and it sort of just guides your eye, often subconsciously if it's done well. So vignettes are a good tool to have, so I'll just name this vignette. And then the one final thing we're going to do is add a glow. So scroll down here, stylize glow. And so that doesn't look too good, but what we have to do is turn up the radius a fair amount, then turn down the intensity. And so intensity obviously is how bright it is. Radius is how much, like if we have the radius set at 0, each pixel, it's just making like that pixel and the pixels maybe right next to it really bright. And so it's more bright, but in those one area. Radius, that sort of spreads out the glow and sort of softens it. So I like to do that. And then glow threshold, that's just what areas you want to glow, what color area things. So if I turn it up, you're glowing less of the image, and then it glows the brighter parts, and then more so and brighter until 0, it's just glowing the whole image. So I'll have it right there, just sort of a glow over there. And then what I'm going to do is set the layer mode to add, and then I'm going to darken it a little. So maybe I'll do screen. You know what? I'll try screen. I still should darken it a little. But it's sort of now just compositing the glow on top, so that's kind of a cool thing. Alright, I guess one final thing I'll do, because this is kind of cool, and this is a trick I learned a while ago. For a film glow type of thing, this is a different type of glow you can use. I'm going to add a fast blur. On here. And then just blur the whole thing. Fair amount. And then there we go. Here we do either screen or add. So I'll try screen. And then that sort of composites a glow on top. Just sort of like what we did with this glow, except it's a little better composited because it's the whole thing all around and a little more equally. So that's another way of doing a glow. Just with that, you got to make sure you hit repeat edge pixels or it'll start to come off the side. So anyway, those are some basics I use when just color correcting some footage. I actually recently just put up a color correction reel, so I'll link to that in the description. So, thank you for watching this After Effects tutorial. If you liked it, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I will try to get back to you. So, thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something.